3 times as long as the biggest living crocodile and 6 times as heavy, this dinosaur had monstrous power.
Can we stop with this awesome bro bullshit, please?
This documentary is making Jurassic Fight Club look like Walking with Dinosaurs.
Hey, Dino. Look what's been uploaded on YouTube for free during the quarantine!
Ooh, what?
The entirety of Jurassic Fight Club. I haven't seen this since I was 5.
It's been a while since I watched this myself, actually. Shall we check out a few episodes?
Yeah, I think I've seen this episode a couple times, but wait. Isn't there another episode with this theme? Which one should we watch?
Why not both?
2 shitty documentaries later. Well, looks like we got a gold mine of content here. Let's do this shit.
No wonder we haven't watched this in so long. Has so many problems.
Now this is gonna make Monsters Resurrected look like Walking with Dinosaurs. Boy, do we owe that an apology.
Indeed. If you could not tell, in this review, we'll be reviewing the 2 Morrison Formation-based episodes of Jurassic Fight Club, which are episodes 4, Bloodiest Battle, and episode 6, Hunter Becomes Hunted.
Christ, I'm cringing just reading those titles.
I have no strong feelings one way or the other. And just wait till we actually dive into the episodes themselves.
The bloodiest battle of the prehistoric era.
The first 9 seconds are horrendous. Holy gosh, the editing!
And the first 9 seconds reminds me why rewatching this was such a pain in the neck.
I have no idea what they were thinking.
I mean, they probably thought it was cool, but typically when someone thinks it's cool, it's usually not. And this was most likely written by old smelly men.
It happened about 150 million years ago.
Tenontosaurus? That won't evolve for another 40 million years, at least. Is this supposed to be Camptosaurus? Well, if it is, you're lying. That's clearly a Tenontosaurus. You're recycling it from episode 3.
This is reminding me of something else already.
The Earth was much different than it is now. In what will become North America, a shallow sea has begun to split the continent.
What the hell are we looking at Pangea? It should already have broken in half at this point. That's a Triassic landmass. Which, by the way, there's no episodes in the Triassic period. Don't get your frickin' hopes up.
Well, I guess by Jurassic Fight Club, they really meant Jurassic and afterwards Fight Club.
Well, you can't have Tyrannosaurus if it's exclusive to the Jurassic.
Increasing oxygen levels allowed dinosaurs to grow taller than a 6-story building. Long-necked, 4-legged dinosaurs.
Hey, it's what people think Allosaurus is. Well, these people at least.
This lake in particular will be the scene of a prehistoric bloodbath.
Hey, they're going for the predator trap hypothesis, which has been debunked. This could just be a case of science marching on, but I'm going to roast them for it anyway because they frickin' deserve it.
Walking with Dinosaurs covers this better in 5 seconds than this will ever do in an hour.
Well, there's less blood in it, so the Awesome Bros think it's
Fast forward 150 million years. 30 miles south of Price, Utah.
sheep in the United States? Impossible.
Suddenly, he sees something protruding from the soil. A decade would pass before paleontologists would launch an investigation. Today, the site is called the Cleveland Lloyd Quarry.
So at least we're not Detroit!
And what was found here would rock the scientific world.
Oh wow, look at this beautiful Camarasaurus skull.
Too bad it won't be transitioned to the model. As far as I know, it's a fucking joke on the audience.
More on the Pac-Man over here later.
Investigators uncovered one set of remains, then another, then another. Soon, they had uncovered something stunning. Thousands of bones.
The Cleveland Lloyd Quarry is absolutely one of the most remarkable fossil sites in the world.
Hey, Dinosaur George!
One of the best parts of this documentary. Sadly, He will not be enough to save this shit. Paleontology expert? Why is it written this way?
Shouldn't it just state paleontologist?
Yes, and it would be less than an asshole move by implying that he's not a professional.
Over 15,000 individual bones have come out of this quarry. Paleontologists think that that's not even half the amount of bones that are still buried in the ground. It's an amazing sight, but one of the first things you have to ask is, why are so many bones from so many different kinds of dinosaurs assembled in that one location?
Now, for the Cleveland Lloyd, there are three main theories. A drought. B, predator trap, which is probably what they're going with, because mass murder. And C, botulinum toxin in the water, probably from rotting corpses and poop.
Then, another revelation. Among all of the bones found at the site, almost every
Acrocanthosaurus? What the hell? What is it doing here?
Again, just like that Tenontosaurus we saw earlier, the species did not evolve until the early Cretaceous period.
It's a contemporary of another episode, but they wanted the raptors to be the apex predators because they're frickin' idiots.
That only works in Utah raptor land.
Let's not talk about that episode.
Spherical!
The skeleton is nice, but why?
It's the same as having a Tyrannosaurus Rex here, which they'll probably do anyway, knowing their track record.
Every herbivore bone recovered showed signs of being crushed, broken, and...
Wait a second. That's a bone that's been bitten by a Tyrannosaurus. Well, Dino, pinch poke, you owe me a Coke.
After this monstrosity.
bitten. Deep gashes were in some bones. Others had been somehow pulverized. How did all of these dinosaurs die at this one site?
Taphonomy is basically looking at what happened to a fossil from the time of death of an animal until it actually is buried and fossilized.
Why are they showing this? Did they think the 12-year-olds would enjoy this? Well, probably, considering the actual fans of this are typically the Nothing Personnel kid Sonic OC makers. What the hell is Majungasaurus here? It wouldn't evolve until the end of the Cretaceous. It likely saw the asteroid that spelled their doom.
Not to mention this editing, again. Were they trying to give the viewers a headache?
Yes, at best.
Taphonomy evidence revealed that the site was once a freshwater lake bed, but why was it filled with so many bones?
During times of extreme drought, the water levels in a lake can shrink pretty rapidly.
No, I thought they would have become larger. Stop stating the obvious.
Well, they need to pan out the runtime somehow.
Oh,
I'm gonna headbutt you! I'm gonna headbutt you! I'm gonna headbutt
1 minute, 37 seconds later.
As they shrink, what happens is the upper layer of mud sort of becomes dry when underneath it remains pretty wet and sticky.
did they just say wet and sticky? What have I got? Must resist J-Lo by you.
Oh no, not again.
So as animals walk out across this to get to the water and get a drink, they get stuck. Their weight causes them to crack through the upper crust, and that's when they get stuck, and you're not going to get out.
Multiple species would come to drink here. Then, another breakthrough. Investigators identified one of the dinosaurs.
I am a Stegosaurus. Oh wow, look at that beautiful stego.
Yes, this model has some great coloration, actually, wow.
And it's quite accurate for 2008. Surprising.
Considering that in the future we'll see a much more inaccurate Stegosaurus design.
The only thing I could point out that's a negative is no throat armor or ontogeny, but everyone seems to forget that throat armor exists. Or in the case of ontogeny, we didn't have very many young stegos until the discovery of Sophie, which won't happen for a while.
There's nothing in the world today that looks like a Stegosaurus. And it just was so peculiar.
Hey, haven't we seen you before?
With that long, cone-shaped head and this big curved back.
Hey, it's the Jurassic World Stegosaurus, and it's where it belongs, fucking dead.
Why do they still pose the skeletons of Stegosaurus like this anyways?
Because they haven't changed it since 1890.
Short front legs and long back legs, those plates on the back and the spikes on the tail. It was just so different from anything known, past or present.
Are you sure about that?
You are aware that there's an entire family of Stegosaurs like Stegosaurus, right? In fact, some of them are even weirder than Stegosaurus, but for them, I guess.
Its name means roof lizard. What? With the 17 plates arranged in a double row along its back. These plates ranged in height from 4 inches to almost 3 feet and gave Stegosaurus its unique appearance.
Some people think they look sexy. Perhaps female stegosaurs really like the look of the plates on the male stegosaurus.
Scott Hartman, what the hell are you doing here? Honestly, I thought you would have looked different.
What contract did you sign in order to be a part of this?
You're probably pointing a gun at his head off camera.
Hit the bricks, pal, you're done. Some people think that perhaps it played a role in thermoregulation, that is, heating up or cooling down the animal.
Well, that's not totally outdated.
Cocaine's a hell of a drug.
And of course, to some degree, they would have played a defensive role in the sense that they would have been very hard to bite should you try to bite that part of the stegosaur. Personally, I favor the sexiness hypothesis. It's kind of more fun to say.
Why and who decided to write sexiness in the script for this show that could most likely have children watching it? Oh wait, we watched it as kids.
Is the guy who directed Dinosaur King secretly ghostwriting this one with Jack Horner?
Oh no!
The Stegosaurus found at the site stood 14 feet tall, measured about 28 feet in length, and weighed 3 tons.
Why are they using Stenops's weight, but Ungulatus's height and length? Fun fact, Ungulatus is also the Stegosauruses in the Lost World Jurassic Park, you know, the good ones from the Jurassic franchise.
Their front legs were shorter than their rear, making them a slow-moving dinosaur, but far from helpless.
Stegosaurs are very much like their armored cousins, the ankylosaurs.
Hey, it's Jim Kirkland. How's the Utah Raptor Project going? I feel like I need to donate to that as penance for this thing.
Hopefully he received a paycheck as well.
Probably not, since the History Channel had far better uses for that money.
Cocaine's are very much like their armored cousins, the ankylosaurs, in having very small forelegs and very long hind legs. This allows them to move the front quarters around, pivoted around a small point, and use the long legs to move the back end very fast around that same point, keep the tail pointed toward what they're attacking.
Why are they using a Gastonia skeleton here? Stop spoiling episode 7.
Man, they sure do like using random dinosaur skeletons.
Why not use Gargoylosaurus? At least it lived in the Morrison. Sure, it's not found at the site. But since Saurophagenax is also not from the site...
And what a tail they had. They had 4 spines sticking out the very end of the tail.
Stegosaurus would have utilized 2 weapons for protection. First was its tail spikes, 4 cone-shaped hellraiser.
Who you calling pinhead?
Why are they calling them tail spikes instead of their correct term, phagomizers?
They actually are way too small. They're only using the bone cores as size references, as there were most likely a keratinous sheath on the phagomizers, likely adding a foot or 2 in length, but they were likely too lazy to do that, so...
Those are the greatest dinosaur weapons ever found.
Ankylosaurus would like to have a word with you. Also, is this secretly being written by Korean documentary makers as well? Is Ed the Badass gonna show up?
These spikes are incredible weapons.
The tail here is actually quite too flexible, only able to move side to side.
By swinging that tail, if he strikes you with them, you're done for. Those spikes could penetrate bone, they could penetrate flesh, and they could cause an injury that would end the attacker's life.
Be like a big spiked mace, and I don't mean the stuff you spray, you know, on muggers, but rather a more medieval weapon, a big club that with...
The tail of Stegosaurus wouldn't have resembled a mace in function. It would be more like a baseball bat with nails in it, as maces were designed for priests to defend themselves without drawing blood.
Stegosaurus' tail, however, would certainly draw blood at the very least.
Scientists uncovered a second set of remains near the adult Stegosaurus. It was a second Stegosaurus, but this one was a baby.
Ah, a baby dinosaur in a show obsessed with death and destruction. This can't end well.
I give it 11 minutes.
One that stands out at the small end of the spectrum. It's a smaller animal.
Poor James Mason. He even sounds depressed.
And it looks like it's injured. It has a wound of some kind or another.
Not one, but two Stegosaurus, an adult and a baby, had somehow died in this death trap.
Possibly because it's known as a death trap?
Shallow bite marks found on the hip bones and ribs suggested that the baby had been attacked by a mid-sized predator. Scientists continued to investigate. Then, a second species was identified. This one was 100 yards away from the two Stegosaurus. They belonged to a titan of the Jurassic world.
Some people at Universal might have been fans of this turd.
A long-necked dinosaur named Camarasaurus.
It's pronounced Camarasaurus, you nerds!
Wait, what? Why is it rearing up?
Don't worry, we'll cover that in a second.
Camarasaurus was the first dinosaur that showed that there were giant animals bigger than elephants with these long necks, heads full of plant-eating teeth, enormous sturdy legs, and gigantic...
Why are we looking at Brachiosaurus?
Because a certain Spielberg film made it a household name again, despite the fact it's one of, if not the rarest sauropod in the Morrison, and considering how many there are, that's an achievement.
They were the most common long-necked dinosaurs of the late Jurassic period. They could grow to a staggering 20 feet tall at the hips, measured 60 feet in length, and tipped the scales at 20 tons. That's 9 times the mass of an elephant.
Wait, hold on a moment. Why are they using the height and length of the species C. grandis and the weight of C. lentis?
Probably because they thought the sauropod went on a diet, even though that would be impossible for these guys.
Or they think all the species are the exact same animal.
Oh, so like the Isle fans. Joke's on you guys, I don't use Twitter.
Attacking a dinosaur this size would be like attacking your mother. Attacking a dinosaur this size would be like attacking a building.
Hey, the only good line in the entire documentary. This is actually a pretty great metaphor.
I'll be stealing that, thank you very much.
Camarasaurus got that big because few dinosaurs were as successful in its environment. Because few dinosaurs were as successful in its environment.
Should we tell them there are at least 10 more sauropods in the Morrison? Hell, there's 3 more in the Cleveland Lloyd alone.
Camarasaurus was very successful because it could feed from a variety of ranges. It could feed low at the ground, it could feed at about its shoulder height, and it may have been able to rear its head up on this long neck to feed high up in the trees.
So, you say that the massive 3D lane is unique to Camarasaurus, but Brachiosaurus had this feature too, so why is Brachiosaurus so rare and Camarasaurus common?
Probably due to niche partitioning, but they're too edgy to explain actual sauropod ecology, and would explain that Camarasaurus outcompeted Brachiosaurus, like something else in this documentary.
This also owed its success to a set of 5-inch-long spoon-shaped teeth.
That jaw looks like shit. Moving on.
That paleontologists realized could defoliate entire trees at will.
Wait, no, it's chewing?
Ah, shit. Sauropod jaws do not work this way, as they were only able to open and close like most other reptiles. Their teeth were designed to rake down plants and digest them with gastrula, which we find in their stomach. Hell, one sauropod might have died due to swallowing one that was too large.
The remains of 3 Camarasauruses found together in Wyoming in 1997 suggested that these dinosaurs traveled in small herds.
Travel in herds, yet we are too lazy to animate more than 3 Camarasaurus at any given time. In Jurassic Fight Club, more like we don't give a shite in this club.
Also, half of the biomass of the Morrison Formation is diplodocids, yet none show up in this episode whatsoever, not even as a corpse. At least Walking with Dinosaurs had Triceratops show up as a corpse in the late Cretaceous episode. This place looks like a freaking Fallout map.
You think it's in West Virginia?
As the lake bed investigation continued, the mystery deepened. Very few Camarasaurus bones were found. Why?
Really big animals like Camarasaurus would have been pretty reluctant to walk out to the lake bed.
As plant eaters, they were not natural aggressors. As plant eaters, they were not natural aggressors. When they encountered a predator, Camarasaurus most likely relied on their sheer mass to act as a deterrent to a fight.
Why does the seemingly adult-sized Camarasaurus emit baby sounds?
Is it even supposed to be the baby, or is the bull that becomes stuck later?
At this point, the style of editing they picked is so goddamn confusing, even the editors can't make out what's going on.
Potential predators would probably do them in. If you want to be very careful around them. A large African elephant often weighs in the 5 to 6 ton range.
Why do these elephants not sound like elephants at all? They could have used stock elephant sounds, for crying out loud.
I've seen elephants in cartoons that use better sound effects that aren't stock. Here, they're using sauropod sound effects because they're lazy. Jurassic Fight Club, we don't even know what elephants sound like.
Then Camarasaurus faces you. He's gonna wait till you get too close, and then he's gonna rear up on those hind legs and crush you.
This is most likely not accurate at all. Macronarians can't rear up. Even a basal one such as Camarasaurus would be unlikely to do it. If you wanted a sauropod that could rear up, you could use Apatosaurus or Barosaurus, which show up in the Cleveland Lloyd. But no! Let's use Camarasaurus because we need our damn cocaine money.
If that doesn't work, and you outflank him, then Camarasaurus uses its tail, which is a defensive weapon. He'll swing that tail from side to side. If he makes a direct hit, the fight is all but over. Up into the stands, it's a home run, game over.
But the deep wounds and gouge marks found in the bones at the watering hole.
What the hell is going on?
Did they think this technology screen editing looked cool? Did they think it looked good? Well, it doesn't. It looks like dog.
This isn't even telling us anything. It only makes everything even more confusing than it already is.
Hey, if you're confused enough, you'll believe anything they get out at you. And that's why the septic T-Rex bite theory is still alive to this day in the plebeians' eyes. Kill me now.
At the watering hole proved that no one was safe. And as investigators were about to discover, there was a third monster at this site. And this one wasn't a plant eater. It was a true killing machine.
Rugops, a 30-foot-long killing machine.
This video is sponsored by myself. If you'd like, you can check out my official merch store in the description below. We just released a new line of products featuring this very cute Rugops drawing I made. All the profit made from this merch will help me make more content and continue to stay here on the platform. Thank you and enjoy the rest of this review.
There were killers patrolling its shores.
This is YouTube Kids editing, almost 2 decades before YouTube Kids even existed.
Only a hell of a lot bloodier because the series is obsessed with gore more than Friday the 13th is. Trust me, when we reach episode 6, you'll see what I mean.
Paleontologists must work to identify who may have been responsible for the carnage found at this site. Then, a third species emerged from the Jurassic lakebed. And this one was a predator. It was one of the rarest killers. Ceratosaurus.
Hi guys! We'll cover most of Ceratosaurus's design and problems in the next episode. But one, where the heck is Martiasaurus? It outnumbered Cerato 2-1 in the site. But they were both outnumbered by Allosaurus. The upper third of the formation is exclusively Allosaurus.
He wasn't especially fast, and his claws weren't large or strong compared to other predators.
The entirety of the Ceratosaurus segment later.
Can you move it along? I'm all out of time cards.
The forensic evidence painted an intriguing picture of how the melee started.
Wait, what? Why are they talking about the fight now? Doesn't this usually happen towards the end of the episode?
For whatever frickin' reason, they've made the most dumb decision in the show's history and decided to intercut the fight with the weigh-in of Saurophagian X. Again, this is not a true crime show. You are not CSI or Scooby-Doo. Please f***ing stop.
Their compact feet slip easily through the hardened upper crust, and they become mired in mud. Attracted by the sounds of the struggling pair, a single Ceratosaurus arrives on the scene. Its long toes and splayed foot design allow it to move across the upper crust without breaking through.
Notice how the baby Stegosaurus gets caught instantly? Yet none of the theropods get caught because they have splayed toes. Pterotornis would like to have a word with you.
Even though the Stegosaurus baby weighs less than even the Ceratosaurus here does. So in short, everything here should be dying in the Jurassic heat, as they would have been stuck, but that wouldn't be edgy enough for the show's standards.
Sorry, Dina, what do you think this is? Ballad of Big Al, where realism actually makes sense?
The juvenile's basically helpless. It normally relies on its mother to be able to protect it. But she's stuck up to her shoulders in mud, so she can't use her main weapon, which is...
Agomizer.
Like its mother, the little juvenile has...
Agomizer.
But he can't move them because he's literally exhausted from trying to get out of the mud.
Keep in mind, they say that the adult Stegosaurus is a girl and the juvenile's a male because they flip genders more than I flip pancakes. Did they even write it down?
The Ceratosaurus moves in for the kill. He bites the juvenile in one of its most vulnerable areas.
Notice how the Ceratosaurus is acting cautious, yet in a curious manner, which would be quite realistic for a carnivorous predator in this given situation.
Well, this is going to be thrown right out the window when the three stoogopods arrive. Because after that, it's Murder City.
He bites the juvenile in one of its most vulnerable areas, behind the ribcage, directly in front of her hind leg.
Oh god, this is quite depressing actually. Poor Stegosaurus.
We now know that by the late Jurassic, Ceratosaurus was fast becoming extinct, desperate for easy prey.
Ah, they're saying Ceratosaurus is becoming extinct. We'll cover this in episode 6, as this show has a fetish for beating Ceratosaurus.
The discovery of a Ceratosaurus skeleton made it clear that it hunted the lakebed for food. But there was a piece of the puzzle that experts couldn't answer. Of the tens of thousands of fossil remains, only a single Ceratosaurus was found. This mid-sized predator did not have the power or the weaponry to cause the extreme damage to the tens of thousands of bones.
Well, time for the showrunners to pull out the lotion because they have a hard-on for this thing, even though it's my least favorite Allosaurus model ever.
We'll cover more on this fella as well later, as it has another episode to itself.
Allosaurus.
Allosaurus was the most common dinosaur found in the Cleveland Lloyd site. It's a massive animal, so it was more than capable of crushing bones and ripping apart the skeleton.
Allosaurus was the first giant predatory dinosaur to stalk North America. It predates T-Rex by some 80 million years and was the biggest carnivore of its time.
At least they got that detail correct. However, the rest of this thing's still trash. Also, they forgot Torvosaurus existed, but that would make them reference something that could destroy their senpai's ass.
When the first big skeletons of Allosaurus were uncovered, people finally saw that there were meat-eating dinosaurs that were as big as a killer whale, with powerful claws on its hand, truly fearsome meat-eaters, a terror from the Jurassic period.
They even use a skeleton of Saurophaganax as Allosaurus? What an epic failure.
Just wait till episode 6 for a full explanation of this, because if we explain it now, we'll be here to the heat death of the universe.
Stood about 16 feet tall, measured 38 feet in length, and weighed up to 4 tons.
Keep these measurements in mind for later, everyone.
In addition to its size, Allosaurus possessed 2 lethal weapons that made it a top predator. The first was its trio of 6-inch claws extending from each hand.
The claws of Allosaurus would have been like an eagle on steroids.
The teeth of Allosaurus were not like T-Rex. They weren't bone-crushing. They seem to be more blade-like. They're more slashing teeth. And that's probably...
It was more than capable of crushing bone.
If the teeth of Allosaurus were not capable of crushing bone, then why did the dinosaurs found at the watering hole show signs of being crushed? The answer? 8,000 pounds of Allosaurus actually stomped on them.
Did you like that footage of the Allosaurus stepping on that Camarasaurus carcass? Did you think it was going to show up in the fight itself? Well, nope. It's entirely irrelevant. Again, we could have gotten Barosaurus instead of this bullshit.
This was the site of one of the most gruesome and barbaric acts ever recorded in the fossil record. The bodies were piled on top of each other and the earth literally ran red with blood.
Holy Jesus fucking Christ. Is this a serious dino doc or a freaking 4chan green text?
But if Allosaurus was the apex predator, why then were so many Allosaurus bones found in the lake bed? Investigators believe that while feeding, many of them became stuck themselves.
Hey, that doesn't happen at all.
You wanna know what's worse about it? Is that they know this blade theory is inaccurate. But they still went with it anyway. Did they hire Florida men to proofread this?
Interesting that with Allosaurus, we find, in some cases, large accumulations of Allosaurus bone. And so when we see large accumulations, it makes us wonder what's going on. Did these animals live in large groups? We might even call them flocks, considering they're closely related to birds. Or were they together for some other reason? An interesting parallel that is compelling in many ways is what we see at the La Brea tar pits in California. Many of the fossils that we find there are of predatory animals, of wolves and predatory birds and things like that. The La Brea tar pits we regard as a baited trap. Animals get stuck in there and the predators are lured in.
Well, that's not really an accurate comparison. As we mentioned, the Cleveland Lloyd was most likely not a predator trap.
By your own damn logic, the Smilodon and Aeneascion would not have been captured at Rancho La Brea despite being the single most common large vertebrates there. By the way, we would have gotten an episode here, but no, we will cover the Ice Age episode they did make later.
Hundreds of Allosaurus skeletons, but only a single Ceratosaurus. There is no doubt which predator ruled this Jurassic lake bed.
You smell what they're cooking?
Ah, yes, I smell bias.
First we look at whatever evidence we do have, and then we look at the behavior of modern animals and apply that to those prehistoric creatures. By doing this, it gives us a realistic version of things with science to help back it up.
I think most of what you're gonna see next kind of slaps this mentality and thought process in the face.
A trapped baby Stegosaurus is being eaten alive by the Ceratosaurus. The smell of fresh blood drifts downwind, perfectly in the path of a team of approaching Allosaurus.
These Allosaurus hunted packs because it allows them to bring down much larger prey. They use their incredible sense of smell like a prehistoric homing device. Their keen sense of smell tells them that there's an adult and juvenile Stegosaurus about 100 yards ahead. But they also pick up the very distinct scent of a Ceratosaurus, and this is the hated enemy of Allosaurus.
Wait, why are they referring to Ceratosaurus as the hated enemy of Allosaurus? Ceratosaurus would clearly hunt smaller prey items, while Allosaurus would hunt the large sauropods primarily.
Then again, they would not have been able to see what they loved most in life. Ceratosaurus getting absolutely dunked on by Allosaurus. God, this reeks of salt more than Pokemon Showdown.
The Ceratosaurus is outnumbered, and scientists now know it was also outsmarted.
Just wait until you see how they contradict this line and this visual.
It was sort of an earlier model meat eater that doesn't have the more sophisticated brain that we see in some of its contemporaries. Although it was pretty strong, it didn't have the claws, it didn't have the brains, and it also didn't have the size of some of the other giant meat eaters of its environment.
Also, basal theropods do not have a significant difference in intelligence levels than tetanurans. The differences are mainly in their tails, arms, especially between these two.
It's a face-off, one that's about to see a colossal monster join the fight. Colossal monster. A single Ceratosaurus faces off against two Allosaurus. The prize, a helpless Stegosaurus and her young. The food chain. Allosaurus goes into killing mode.
Some of the lines in these are like a pizza cutter, all edge, no point.
Up against somebody bigger, Allosaurus is going to be cautious. He's going to stand back. He's going to really size up the prey, and he's going to focus on his adversary's weak points. Fighting somebody smaller, the battle changes. Now he's interested in rushing in and beating the crud of his opponent. I don't care about weighing your strengths and weaknesses, brother. I'm bigger than you. I'll rip your head off.
There's a new clue. Scientists have found Allosaurus bones around the world. They all show signs of serious trauma. We know this dinosaur was hardwired to kill or be killed.
Because carnivorous dinosaurs only murder, right? Right?
Allosaurus are cooperative hunters, so as two of them move down to take on their adversary head-on, the third moves off in a different direction in an effort to outflank the Ceratosaurus.
There is no point in them doing this. There are 3 of them, and only 1 Ceratosaurus.
This tactic wouldn't even work anyway. Ceratosaurus has its eyes more towards the sides of its skull than Allosaurus, and would see it coming and get out of the way, but they're not going to have this happen because they hate Ceratosaurus for whatever reason.
One of them takes advantage of the Stegosaur's vulnerable position and uses him as a platform.
Do you notice how the Stegosaurus is still alive despite the fact a 4-ton carnivore is literally standing on its neck?
That's how the Ceratosaurus is going to be finished off.
The Ceratosaurus begins to move away from the Stegosaurus. Away from the Stegosaurus. With the force of a runaway freight train, the third Allosaurus crushes the unsuspecting Ceratosaurus.
So the Ceratosaurus dies?
Yes, because they hate Cerato. What doesn't kill the inaccurate Stegosaurus with its pasta neck somehow kills the muscular Ceratosaurus neck with one mighty stomp. This is so biased it's not even funny anymore.
We now know that some Stegosaurs could have as many as 8 spikes on their tail.
The massive weight on the female Stegosaurus causes her body to lean forward. This frees her tail. The moment she feels her tails become free, she swings it with every bit of remaining energy she has, and it lands a direct hit.
I like your cut, G.
The location of the bones tells the story. One Allosaurus is down. A few steps away, the body of the Ceratosaurus lays motionless.
It's almost like a child playing with its toys. Only this has a budget of some kind.
Next to her, the lifeless body of her offspring.
I like how they are just ignoring the dead bodies all around them.
Also, they could just bite the Stegosaurus's neck and easily kill it.
Well, that's too easy. They got something large and chunky to murder instead.
100 yards away, another dinosaur comes to the lake bed.
A family of Camarasaurus moves down to the lake bed.
Why are they showing the bull stuck in the mud before their arrival animation?
Because they were lazy and wanted to show the Allosaurus as single-handedly proving they're dumber than the Cerato. Just eat the dead corpses, you dumbasses.
Or terminate the Stegosaurus, which is stuck right next to you.
But instead, let's attack the living building with a baseball bat shoved up its ass.
Its sheer size is extreme close-up! The Allosaurus are now faced with a difficult choice. Do they continue their attack on the Stegosaurus, or do they dare take on something as huge as a Camarasaurus?
I'd say that under normal circumstances, Camarasaurus was such a big animal that it didn't really have to worry about attack very often. We certainly know that sometimes they get stuck in the mud. In a situation like that, if it's isolated from the rest of the herd, Allosaurus may have taken a chance.
Allosaurus was built to move at a good pace compared to other dinosaurs. Some experts estimate they could run as fast as 20 miles an hour, but the Camarasaurus could have been 150 years old. It wouldn't have moved as quick.
So why are they talking about the speed of Allosaurus again? The Camarasaurus in this fight is stuck in the mud, meaning it doesn't need to chase after it at all.
What we see in Allosaurus is we see in Allosaurus is...
And like a cheetah, they use their long tail as a counterbalance to help them change directions when they're running at top speed.
Did they just add a cougar scream over a cheetah? Dino, get me the gun.
Alrighty then.
In fact, a giant species of Allosaurus grew to an even greater size than its cousin, T-Rex.
Wait, hold on. Are they mentioning Giganotosaurus? Why aren't they mentioning it by name?
The thing I heard through the grapevine was that there was going to be a Rex versus Giganotosaurus episode, but they cut it for obvious reasons.
On top of that, it's got a very long, broad tail, which you could use to swat at an attacker.
That same center of higher functions is really quite small. What that suggests is that in the heat of battle, the slightly larger brain size of what we see in Allosaurus would have potentially allowed it to, in a sense, adapt to the changing battle situation.
With the CAT scan evidence and unprecedented insight into predatory dinosaur behavior.
What the f*** are we seeing this again?
They liked this shot so much, they showed it to us again and played some bootleg Jurassic Park music over it.
Experts now know how the apex predator took on a monster dinosaur.
Stop calling it a monster. What is this? Lost World 1925?
Well, only that was entertaining. I think the book had more value than this whole documentary does.
A herd of Camarasaurus approaches a dry lake. Their skeletal design prohibits them from lowering their heads to the ground. With their keen sense of smell, they pick up the scent of an unusually high number of predators.
Their sheer size and mass is usually enough to deter any predator from attacking, but the large number of predators assembled in this one area puts the Camarasaurus on high alert.
Despite the threat, quenching their thirst is a priority. The alpha male steps onto the mud-encrusted shore. As he positions himself to get a drink, he finds it difficult to maneuver.
This puts the dinosaur in a very precarious position if it happens to get attacked. Unfortunately for the sauropod, it's unaware of the mud trap that lies just beneath the cracked and dry upper crust.
The enormous weight of this Jurassic titan cracks through the dried mud layer. Its elephant-like front feet become...
What's the narration even here? We can clearly see what the hell's going on, and we already know the condition of the rocket soil around the pond, and the fact the Camarasaurus is stuck. Also, sauropods do not have elephant feet.
The Allosaurus make a very wise decision to abandon the Stegosaurus and go for the Camarasaurus.
At the sight of the Allosaurus, the Camarasaurus herd turns and retreats, leaving its leader to face the threat alone.
Their priority is to move away from the danger and take the babies.
What? Why are they attacking the adults? It's 5 times larger. The baby, which they could actually kill, is long gone.
Monsters Resurrected has taught me anything. The predators should go for the smaller, softer target.
Yet they actively wish to go after the healthy, full-grown male, which only has 2 of its legs stuck. These Allos are going to win a Darwin Award 150 million years before they're official.
The Allosaurs approach carefully, circling to make sure that the Camarasaurus is firmly stuck in the mud. The anatomy of the Camarasaurus shows 2 weak spots, the flanks and the neck. A deep gouge or bite in those strategic areas, and the herbivore goes down.
Under normal conditions, there is no...
Pretty sure Archosaur lips and skin in general does not twitch at all.
No way these 2 Allosaurs would dare take on a bull Camarasaurus. But the fact that it's stuck in the mud has changed the whole battle plan.
Taking up positions on either side of the giant sauropod, the Allosaurs launch their attack, teeth and claws primed to bite and slash.
This is not how Allosaurus hunts and kills sauropods at all.
Yeah, Allosaurus would most likely climb and grab onto its victim with its claws as it bites into the neck, as shown by this lovely visual aid from the Allosaurus episode of Your Dinosaurs Are Wrong.
Thanks, Your Dinosaurs Are Wrong. You can find the full video from their channel in the description below. Also, don't you guys weigh nearly 4 tons?
Yes. Do you see any Asian elephants jumping around like Super Mario? As funny as that image would be, no, you fuck.
Using their large hand claws. You lie! You lie! But under the intense heat of the Jurassic sun, scientists say, an unseen force begins to take its toll on overheating.
The massive size of these Allosaurus makes overheating a real concern. Almost all evidence points to these dinosaurs as being warm-blooded creatures, which means they have no trouble warming up. But cooling down can be a real chore, And after their fight with that Ceratosaurus, like modern birds and dogs, the Allosaurus is penned in an effort to expel excess body heat. But they also have a special adaptation that allows the heat to escape through their skull. It's a large opening called the antorbital fenestra.
They were right about the fenestrae, but not the right fenestrae. Brian Ang could explain this better than I fucking can.
The Camarasaurus, despite being at a clear disadvantage, wages a strong self-defense.
Should we tell them?
Honestly, I just want to see what happens to these three Allosauruses.
The Allosaurus stalk their prey, looking for a weak spot.
If one of the Allosauruses can get to the soft skin of the neck, they might be able to sever a major artery or cut off the air to the lungs. That will absolutely end this battle and bring down their behemoth prey.
They use an anatomical adaptation to their advantage. Splayed toes.
Why are they bringing up this information, which is technically inaccurate, again?
Because they need to milk the show long enough to make back their expenses.
Okay. One of the Allosaurus attacks. The Camarasaurus is quick to respond.
Like a freight train, the impact crushes the ribs and splinters the arms of Allosaurus.
The momentum of the tail allows the Camarasaurus's front legs to become free. Using the power in its rear legs, it raises its body. The other Allosaurus darts in.
What? Why is it running right into a rearing up sauropod?
You forgot, these dinosaurs are smarter than Ceratosaurus, meaning they are actually the opposite according to what we've seen so far.
Well, Camarasaurus, you know what to do with this dumbass.
The Allosaurus can't stop. Its momentum literally drives it directly under the foot of the massive sauropod.
With its massive weight, the Camarasaurus crushes its last remaining rival.
There are many perfectly good fresh carcasses you can eat right here. Why would you risk your life to attack me, a perfectly healthy, massive sauropod that can fight back hard and kill you? Think, Allosaurus! Think!
But its victory would be short-lived. With all of its energy spent, and once again firmly stuck in the mud, the Camarasaurus is condemned to a slow, agonizing death.
Well, this sucks.
Well, Camarasaurus won kind of, but died anyway.
Well, we know who the true winners of this fight are in the end.
We got a #1 victory royale, yeah, Fortnite, we about to get.
Well, yeah, you could say that. They received a full buffet after all this.
Ah, jeez. God, I thought this would have been good considering I loved this as an 8-year-old. But this is probably the least amount of fun I've ever had making any project ever.
I mean, college didn't help, but this documentary was just completely unbearable. If you thought Monsters Resurrected was bad, times all the edgy factors and all the negatives by at least 25,000. Because this documentary does not seem to care too much about actual science, but rather bloody battles.
To give the comparison, this is so hyper-focused on calling these animals monsters. By the way, I hear that one more time, I'm going to drive a screwdriver into the 2, this is not one of those pivot dinosaur fight videos on YouTube. Those have effort. This is lazier than me on a Sunday afternoon.
We'll share more of our opinions after we finish the review for episode 6, as there's some information, mainly on the 2 main theropods that show up in this episode, we haven't really talked about. However, I am going to give my rating here, though, because it may take a long time for that episode to actually come out. My rating for episode 4 of Jurassic Fight Club, Bloodiest Battle, is going to have to be a 0.4, and I'm changing my review score for Monsters Resurrected to a 2.
Oh, you're being nice. We're going past 0. We're going into the negatives on iReview, baby. -4. Starting to get into ironic enjoyment, but not really.
Next time on Dino and Rod Reviews, we will be reviewing episode 6 of Jurassic Fight Club, the second part of Monstrous Morrison Madness. Stay tuned.
Get me out of here.
And Merry Christmas to you all, and see you all in 2022.
Dominion time, baby! Woo! Yeah, baby! That's what I'm waiting for.
Memo, what do you think of Jurassic Fight Club Episode 4?
Would you like to join us on the next review to make up for it?
Yeah, sure, that would be fun.